This is the Light Drop L's, a segment where we share lessons learned. And today I'm going to share a story about a time when I learned that life is bigger than pixels. So, another thing that I experienced kind of when I was working as electrician assistant was how good it feels to use your hands to build things, right? Um, we have these magical tools that have worked for us since the beginning of time, and you know they're they're just not used for clicking mouses and typing on computers. Getting out, touching real like concrete and dirt, and picking up things that are heavy, you kind of start realizing,
Grass.
right? You're like struggling, your wrist break, like oh man. So yeah, that's when you remember you're like, oh, I'm limited in what I can do. Like I'm struggling with this thing. And this was something that I experienced when I was working as an electrician assistant. When I was pouring concrete, you pour it, you pour a little bit of water. There's somebody on the side with like a screwdriver, and then they're just like mixing it, and then you're pouring it, and you're just doing this. It might be raining or something, and you don't have a lot of time. Also, this stuff is hazardous to you, right? But you're so tired, you're trying to figure it out. Um, and then putting up like a gate, because that was part of the that's also part of the electrician's job, is because they'll they'll come in and they kind of see like, oh, the gate wasn't done properly, right? The wiring was done poorly, it wasn't dug into the ground, it didn't have a certain coating to protect it, or it's just eroded because it's old and we need a new gate. So you would have to pull out all the wires from the concrete. You might have to break it, right? And then you pull it out. You get that long stick again, right? And then you kind of slinky it all the way to where it needs to be, where it won't get damaged by people driving. And you run a new line. You put in the photo eye, which is a little camera that pretty much keeps the gate from closing on cars. And then you put in another wire to track the pressure of the cars passing through it, or the electricity, whatever. And that was all part of the process. And that was like, I was like, this is so much work. Like, I'm so exhausted doing all these things. But it's humbling because it just reminds me that, life is bigger than this. There's other things that are happening in the world that I can still be curious about, that I interact with every single day. So that was that. So another situation was when I worked in a prison for a little bit, man. It was
Wait a minute.
it was
You as a, because you were watching, How to Survive in Prison not too long
I
ago.
was. Yeah. Um
Was this on account of your experience?
this was like I mean, I've always watched stuff like that just because I don't know, I think after watching Prison Break, which wasn't the same thing. Obviously people were getting like beat up and stuff, but like after you watch like Scared Straight, or like these other like big movies about prison, you're like, oh shit, this shit is scary. But no, that was not based on. I don't watch prison survival movies or shows because of it. But yeah. So when I worked as an electrician assistant, I also had to go into a prison to make sure that all the cameras work, basically. And it was not what I expected. I mean, it was a lot of it was what I expected, but it wasn't. Um, it also wasn't right. So we get there early in the morning. I got to drive, sit in the parking lot. I can't sit there for too long because they'll see like, oh, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You might be helping somebody escape. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
So I show up there.
it's suspicious.
Who's that guy who's been sitting there on his phone for like
It's not like pulling up to, like, 7-Eleven
30
at the
minutes?
gas station, just being there
They're
for
watching
20
you.
minutes.
There's like people with scopes, like making sure that you don't do nothing. So
Yeah.
this was we basically, which I would show up there. Then the person who I was gonna basically shadow would show up there after, or they might be there a little bit sooner. And then somebody would let us in. We'd go to a very specific spot, and there'll be a guard following us, and then there'll be another prisoner following us. And I think it was just yeah.
Prisoner.
For some reason, there would be always be another prisoner because they would basically make that prisoner do other jobs, basically. So like if we needed help lifting something, it was up to him.
Interesting.
And then I remember one time I was working in the laundry room. The prisoner was just folding clothes, and it was so surreal because I'm sitting there. I'm like, it feels like we're a Kroger or something. You know, we're just talking, like waiting in line to pay for some food, but I get to leave, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're so
Yo, that's
you're so
crazy.
close to me. Like I could like shake your hand right now. Like I don't know what you could do to me, right? But it's so relaxed. So I think
'Cause I can go
yeah, I
home
can just
after
leave
that.
and you can't. And
Oh, man.
I'm just like, yo, it was surreal because every single time I went home after that, I just always
Yeah.
I appreciated it. Obviously, I haven't done anything to land me in prison, but just you kind of forget unless you interact with certain people. It's like you forget that there's other things that are happening, right? You forget that people today's somebody's last day. Today somebody's fighting for their life. Today somebody's going to jail for the first time.
Hey,
Yeah. So just all these things, man.
you
Just
know,
just things that you just forget when you're just on the computer all the
focused
time.
on yeah, on the computer all the
Yeah,
time, and
things that
yeah, man,
happen.
that's yeah. I think about that sometimes too. Sometimes I'll be sitting at the computer or, like, in my living room or something like that, and I'll just, like, be conscious of, like, somewhere just, like, on the other side of the world, like, the rainforest or something, I don't know,
Mhm.
the Amazon rainforest. I'm just like, there's an animal there right now doing something, like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's dark and probably scary,
yeah,
and you right, noises, like, right this very second
right?
in the rainforest somewhere or in the jungle or something like that in Asia, but I'm here in my living room,
Yeah, toasty.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely it's something to ponder. I think a lot of times people don't do that because they might feel bad about it. They're like, "Oh, I don't wanna feel bad about thinking about other people in the world or other things that are happening," but if you think about it, I mean, if you don't think about those things, if you don't think about those situations, then basically they might never happen. Someone might never know about them. As far as just it affecting you and the stories that you tell for the rest of your life. If you kind of shut yourself off from even just the mental exercise of remembering that hey, somebody was fighting for their
See
life.
the world out
Yeah,
there.
it's a cold world out there, real for real.
So it's a whole world out
You
there,
can I just yeah,
right?
I just think you can take a piece of those memories that people have of either like working for their life or trying to make their lives better. You can insert it into your stories, and in that way it's like you turn something that was probably negative into the best possible thing that you could, which is it's a gift to be able to do that and to be able to contemplate on the rest of life you know
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. As you can keep going and going and going and going and going, like just my thought about the rainforest on the other side of the world do the same thing. I saw a picture the other day, um, from one of the like land rovers, I guess, that they landed on Mars,
mm,
and it was a picture of a sky. Like it was like a picture of the sky on Mars. And the clouds, the captions were like, they look like clouds, but they also look like ice. And it was like, this is like these the conditions here is like it's like made out of dry ice. Like that's what's floating in the atmosphere up there. And that's why it looks kind of like crystally. But it was like when I first saw the picture, I was just like, "Oh, where is that? Like, where on Earth is that?" Like, "Well, that looks pretty cool." And then it was like, "Oh, this is on Mars."
damn.
It was just like, dang, like right now,
Yeah,
like right now. happening, but on
Right.
Mars. Like there's stuff happening on Mars right now,
Mhm.
right? And I'm sitting here in my living room with my slippers on, just like it's just it's a interesting exercise, like you said, to just ponder
Yeah.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then how it translates into like the work you do.
Exactly, man. It's it's a I think philosophy is and thinking about the bigger picture is it's a good exercise to do as a human being because um, we're very good at like kind of putting ourselves in these um, like almost like tunnels of vision where we're kind of I think evolution in itself it we're suited for that. We're suited for like putting our heads down, working, reproducing, stuff like that. But then, if you sit back and think about like the miracle of life, it's like it's worth thinking about all of it. Um, so
I'm sitting in a truck right now in front of a prison about to like about to fix some cameras, and then after this I'm gonna go, yeah,
yeah,
and then like but also in someone else's head, they're looking at my truck from from their prison cell, just like wishing that they could drive away with me tonight.
yeah, and just
Like,
leave. I'm like, I'm gonna go
yeah,
sit, sleep in this comfortable bed, and they gotta stay there.
yeah,
But yeah, man, that was my experience working
L's.
L's. All the lessons I learned. That was part three of lessons learned working as an electrician.
The Electrician
All
Chronicles.
right.